Hello and welcome back to The Movies Made Us Do It. We were just discussing the issues of cat hair in mice. It's a thing because like I was just saying, when the optical mouse came along, everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's so much better than the trackball," and they're right. But cat hair is like the enemy of optical mouse.
Cat hair does not care.
Well, because your mouse just gets worse and worse, and I think you adapt to it over time. But eventually you it gets so bad and you're like, what is going on? And then you realize that it's cat fur. But anyway, we are back. Start of the year. We did our top 5 movies of last year.
Yep.
And now we're back to just doing a regular show. So we're not doing a deep dive this week. We're doing our individual movie reviews. And it's been a tough one finding things to review, to be honest. But
I actually found quite a few things on Netflix. There's a couple.
Well, Netflix came to the rescue, which is funny because my subscription ends at the end of this week, and I'm not renewing it. But I did find I found one thing on there which I watched and you watched, so that's good. But anyway, do you want to kick us off? Off with a movie.
Should we do The Pale Blue Eye?
Sure. So that is the movie that we've both watched recently. And this one I think came out yesterday or the day before on Netflix.
Last week that was.
Oh, was it last week? Okay,
yes.
I only saw it this week because I was kind of looking for something to watch. This is directed by Scott Cooper, starring amazing cast. I mean, the cast is insane.
It's brilliant.
Christian Bale, Harry Melling, Gillian Anderson, who looks like she's having the time of her fucking life in this film. Lucy Boynton. It's just, I mean, the list goes on. Like every time you're watching the movie, like Toby Jones, you're just watching through this movie, and you're like, oh, and him, oh, and him, oh, and him, oh, and her. It's a star-studded cast, and set in 1830, and we kind of meet Bale, who is this kind of aging veteran detective. And he's basically asked by the military to investigate what they think is like satanic murder. It's like a murder mystery movie. He's brought in, kind of reluctantly brought in to investigate this murder, which appears to be satanic in nature. And it kind of goes from there. But I guess one of the major plot points, without spoiling anything of the movie, is that this film, as part of his investigation, Landor, the detective, basically enlists the help of a young Edgar Allan Poe. And the movie kind of obviously shows us this side of Edgar Allan Poe as they investigate this.
And the movie itself is very Poe-esque in it.
Very much
very
so.
Sort of gothic.
Very gothic. Very bleak. Very dark. Borderline miserable. But I loved it. To be honest,
stunningly beautiful.
I really enjoyed this movie.
Stunningly beautiful. I think Bell and Melling are
fantastic.
Melling is Poe is just.
He's brilliant.
It's like it's like the reincarnation of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, well, kind of.
I mean, he's Poe has been in a lot of movies played by lots of different people. I mean, there was that Raven movie with Cusack.
Yeah. And
even Altered Carbon has the hotel that's...
Of course,
and stuff like that. But I think Melling must be the best interpretation I've seen.
Certainly as a young Poe, I really liked this.
I honestly think now, he looks so much like him that you think, I can't wait for him to get a little bit older and pay him later.
That would be great. I would totally be up for him doing that. That would be really fun to see.
And the two performances are stunning. On the negative side, I will say that some of the accents are really bad.
Some of the accents are certainly off.
Timothy Spall, who is a phenomenal actor, he's terrible. I mean, he's not in it very much, to be honest, but he's particularly egregious. I did think, this must be filmed in England because it's full of. I mean, most of the cast is English. Yeah. But it's not. It was filmed in America.
I made the assumption too.
Think, wow, why didn't they find some American actors there? It just seems a bit odd. I loved the overall story. I thought
I thought the plot unfolded really well.
Yeah, well, I do have a niggle with the very end.
Okay, fair enough. I don't think it was necessary. I must admit.
I'm not sort of how to put this. It was set up. Let's put it that way. There were so many clues.
Yes, I agree.
Because I don't want to. I don't want to spoil.
No, same. I'm trying to avoid spoilers, which.
But they do set it up, and you do sort of, you can work out what's going on. But after I watched it and I'd enjoyed it, there was a little niggle at the back of my head that just felt it wasn't deserved.
I wouldn't go that far. I felt like it worked fine.
Like I said, it's a very small niggle. It's not. There was just something that kept bothering me about it at the end, and it, like I said, it's set up and it
makes sense.
Works.
It's not like it's not bullshit. It's not like a twist that makes no sense.
A little too convenient, if you.
Yeah, well, I mean that was the point. Really, it's difficult to talk about this without without spoiling it.
Yeah.
But that was the point, is that it was like, what are the odds that this has happened? And this is, it's a strange set of events that have set into motion this whole situation that it culminates in. I think the film does it pretty well. I really loved, as you said, the atmosphere in this movie, and that gothic feel is spot on. Absolutely fantastic.
Sort of dinner party scene where they're,
I honestly,
it's really uncomfortable, and you just, Toby Jones's character, you just think, oh, you poor bugger, you're a clueless dude that goes along with everything, aren't you? You poor bugger.
Honestly, the acting is pretty fantastic. Some accents aside, all the way through, but Gillian Anderson is amazing in this movie, and I feel like she was just having the bestest time ever. It was great to see her just kind of very against type for her, the character she plays in this.
I think I've seen her play similar characters before. She played the similar character in what's that bloody series about Empress Catherine the Great?
Okay, I've not seen it. So
she played Catherine the Great's mother.
Okay.
Who was this like horrible, pompous woman who is doing her best to marry off all of her daughters. She did her best to marry off all her daughters to the heads of state of different countries. And now that Catherine is going against her husband, she's sort of turned up to try and smooth everything down, and she's just horrible. And again, she's just chewing the scenery and really enjoying it. It was really good.
Also, a shout out to Robert Duvall, who is still alive and making movies. I'm always surprised when I see him, because he's like in his 90s now. But I think he's just one of those actors who's just going to work until the day dies, and it's always nice. He's got a small role in this, but it was really good to see him, and it's just always nice to see Robert Duvall.
Well, what a very cool character as well. The scholarly, the occult scholar.
Yeah.
Very poey.
Yeah.
Sort of and it's the whole the poems and all that. I've not read the book, so I don't know whether it's a faithful interpretation. But I did really enjoy the whole atmosphere.
Yes.
The sheer beauty of the snow covered.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, it really is.
I did think that that for a film set in a military academy, you didn't really see much of the military academy.
No.
Which I thought was a bit odd.
Yeah, I think they wanted to focus on the gothic. It's like, the military academy is not necessarily going to look too gothic, so we need to get in the woods and we need to show you, other areas. But I thought, I will say, this movie's well over 2 hours long, or at least 2 hours long. And I personally really liked the length of this film, and I liked the pace of the film. But I will say it, if you're it's a very considered and slow moving movie. I think it works very well.
I think there was at the beginning, the first sort of, let's say the first hour, does almost stretch it to the point where you're like, okay, this needs to move on now.
But then it does.
But it does, and it just saves itself from, I think
yes,
I agree. Too long.
I agree.
It's I think some people will be frustrated with it.
That's the only reason I say it, because I liked that personally. I thought it went at a good pace, and like you said, just as I was thinking, oh, this is starting to drag, it then switched it up, and we started getting to places. So I didn't mind it, but I can certainly see some people thinking it's a bit boring.
Yeah,
you know, I was just taken in by the visuals and the setting and the characters, so you know, it worked. For me.
It's a true gothic horror. It's got some nice sort of little nods to Poe stuff, and I think the detective I believe is named after Poe's last story. So
right, I didn't know
there was a mention. So
Augustus Landor.
Yes, and the director had previously directed. Bale in Hostiles, which I don't know whether you've seen. It's a really good western.
Oh, he did Black Mass as well.
Yeah, and Out of the Furnace, which is really good. Which again is, I think that's another Bale one, isn't it? Yeah, that's another Bale one.
Oh, and Crazy Heart.
Okay. And Crazy Heart, what a film that is!
Yeah, so he's got pedigree.
He's got really good, directing chops. Yeah, I really love this film. I think
me too. Overall,
other than ropey accents and a slight niggle at the end.
Yeah, I don't think that bothered me as much as it bothered you. I certainly picked up on the accents that I did similarly think. But
as I said, it doesn't detract from. I don't think it doesn't
ruin it.
Of the movie.
No.
It's just a little niggle at the back of my head that feels something. It didn't feel quite as earned as it should. Even though as I said, even though it's set up, you can see it if you look. There was just a tiny, tiny little niggle. That's all. Other than that, I think it's a great movie.
Yeah, agreed. I definitely recommend it. Like I said, just don't go in expecting an action movie or a horror movie. Obviously, elements of gothic horror and an abundance of atmosphere, but you're not getting that fast pace, shock a minute, or action movie. It's very considered and slow burn. I loved it. So yeah, good start to the year.
Yeah, even though it was last year. Well, no.
Well, it's this year for me.
No, it is this year, isn't it? It came out this year.
Yeah. So what else have you watched?
I have seen Medieval.
Movie I almost watched. I didn't get time, and it was between this and the Pale Blue Eye for me, and I thought it sounded like a budget bargain DVD name.
Yeah,
it's like a film called Medieval is the kind of thing I expect to find in like a garage forecourt or something. You know,
it's a bad title.
It's pretty bad.
It doesn't really do it justice.
It's a Czech movie, and I wonder if it was just like has a better name over there than it does here. I don't know. Seems odd.
Guess so. I don't know.
You know, it does happen sometimes when you've just got different titles in different countries, and I was like, it sounds like maybe Netflix were like, oh, we'll just lazily call it Medieval. But so this is so it's apparently they're the most expensive Czech movie ever made. It's 20 million. And it was directed by Peter Jakul. I hope that's how you spell how you say his name. And it stars Ben Foster, Sophie Lowe, Michael Caine, Till Swinton. And by the way, the Netflix trailer makes it look like it stars Michael Caine, because like they show a clip and it's all Michael Caine.
Yeah, it really doesn't star Michael Caine. He's in it, obviously. And he gets a couple of sort of nice little speeches and things. So this is about Jan Žižka, who I'd never heard of, but is a Czech hero. He's a national hero. He was apparently never lost a battle. He fought the Teutonic Knights and the Holy Roman Empire, and apparently there's a number of movies about this guy, but they usually take place in his later career. This one, the director wanted to go back to his sort of like origins, so you get him as this mercenary knight, and you get this sort of plot which is basically the emperor's died, and it's to do with who's going to succeed him, and all these sort of backstabs and plots within plots and things, which do get a little messy and I would say not explained terribly well.
Right.
So you sort of, you kind of know what's going on. They tell you what's going on, but you don't really get a feel for it that much.
Mm-hmm.
But Ben Foster is great. He's a little mumbly at times, which was annoying because the soundtrack was overbearing.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, the soundtrack's really good. But it's another, I don't know whether it's a Netflix problem or because they have a terrible problem with that.
Some weird sound mixing sometimes.
Mixings.
Yeah.
So sometimes the music drowns out what they're saying, which was very annoying. The overall sort of plot is it feels very like a sort of like a Braveheart. It feels like they've obviously want to portray this guy as this hero and
sure.
Setting him up as this thing, and they've obviously added a love story between this character. Overall, I really enjoyed it. It's got some beautiful scenery. There are some wonderful sort of views of the forest as they're running through, and the battle scenes. Now that's where
that's where the budget went.
That's where the good stuff
and Michael Caine
really
for 5 minutes.
The battle scenes are really good.
Yeah. And
what I really like is what you don't see very often in sort of medieval movies is Jan uses a mace. You never.
Oh yeah, you do. You're right. Actually, you very rarely. It's usually a bad guy if anyone's using a mace, and you only see it very briefly. It's very rare. You're right.
No, he's full on using this mace for pretty much the whole movie, and it's fucking brutal.
Well, they are pretty effective.
Yeah,
as a weapon, you know.
Yeah, you do, and there's like a character that uses Barditch, and there are peasants using agricultural tools.
It's interesting, actually, now that you mentioned that, because I wonder if it's just they're not seen as like heroic weapons, are they? They're almost seen as villainous weapons, and like swords are heroic, and it's almost like we've assigned certain weapons to certain certain characters. It's like, the heroic character should have a sword, and they shouldn't have a mace. A mace is a villain's weapon.
It's a brutal club, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's seen as barbaric, isn't it? I guess maybe that's why.
It's a bashing weapon. Your hero shouldn't be bashing people. He should be using the mighty
soldier, I guess.
Sword, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there are some really lovely. There's a really nice scene where they set up this sort of trap for the bad guys, as it were, and they have this sort of wagon set up in this sort of like valley, and they're coming down towards this, and they set up some sort of like smoke to sort of hide themselves, and this wagon has like folding sides and things, and they use it to protect themselves from arrows, and then they repel cavalry attacks through the sides and stuff. Really nice fight scenes. I really, really like the fight scenes. I think it's worth watching just for the battle scenes alone.
Right.
And it's got a really, the set of bad guys. Matthew Good is the sort of the higher born one, and then you've got, now I can't remember which was the name of the guy who was the bad guy, but he was awful. He was a real bastard.
Oh, I thought you meant awful actor.
Oh no! He was he was the suitably scenery chewing bad guy.
Nice.
Who's just like doing terrible things like impaling people, and
that sounds like someone you want to see hit with a mace.
Exactly.
Maces come in handy.
Exactly. It's another 2-hour movie, and it does feel that at times. The overall plot seems to meander a little in the middle, and there's a lot of back and forth, and I feel like they could have made a better through so that it felt like it was going somewhere, because it keeps feeling like it's going back.
Right.
And that for me became a little annoying, but overall, it was a really enjoyable medieval movie with some great battle scenes. Nice performances. Caine, obviously, just being Michael Caine, just
Yeah, I mean, I always think even when Michael Caine can't be bothered, he puts in a great performance. Just naturally. I think even when Michael Caine can't be bothered, it's fine. It's still going to be good.
I would say that Michael Caine can never be bothered. It's not that. He's in crap movies, but he's always.
Well, that's what I mean. I think he's always. He's always going to put in a reasonable performance. I think even on a bad day, Michael Caine is fine. Yes.
I really liked it. I thought it's an overall nice nice movie that, though slightly drags, and I mean I don't know anything about Czech history.
No, I have no idea.
Other than
couldn't tell you how accurate this
minor things. So my guess is it's very in the vein of Braveheart, and that it probably takes a number of
massive liberties. Like Braveheart, yeah.
But it is a very enjoyable medieval movie. Yeah, I really do. Like I said, the title aside.
Yeah, which it just not the best title, but
yeah, it was really good. I really liked it.
Cool. Well, I mean, aside from I did watch, like, I've watched a million found footage movies. I won't go through them all. This was almost as bad of an idea as that time a couple of years ago when I decided to watch loads of cannibal movies and realized that most of them are terrible. No. Well, I just get these ideas in my head. I'm like, I'm going to watch all the cannibal movies.
They feel like a good idea, especially with the cannibal movies.
There are some good ones in there, just not many. The ratio is awful.
And there's so many bad Italians. They seem. They had this massive explosion of them, didn't they? In the
they did, and the funny thing is, like if we started talking about one of those Italian cannibal movies, I've watched it for sure, but they have bled into one movie. I couldn't tell you what happened.
Yeah, but not even that. Some of them even use the same footage.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's lots of that.
Like they literally were like. Sometimes I think when they were filming more than one movie at a time.
Yeah. So I did found footage recently. I went on a big found footage kick. I watched a bunch of old found footage movies, new found footage movies, most of them awful. Some of them, though, are just two that I really want to say.
Yes.
Lake Mungo. Fantastic found footage. Horror, depressing as shit. Horror ghost story. Really, really cool. But very depressing. It's about a girl who has died, and their subsequent investigations kind of done in like a mockumentary kind of style, where they find footage of this girl and they're trying to find out what happened to her and whatnot. And it's really kind of almost heart-wrenching towards the end, as a ghost story should be, really. But it's got some really, really nice moments. But Willow Creek, for a zero budget Bigfoot movie, they did a reasonably good job with that.
I think I've seen Willow Creek.
It's all right. Very little happens in it, but there's a really cool scene, just all inside of a tent, and it goes on for about 20 minutes. It's actually really solid. Or about 15 minutes, I guess. They're just in the tent and they're just hearing the noises of these Bigfoots, and they start throwing rocks and stuff at the tent. It's quite good.
I've seen that.
Pretty effective. But the best one that I saw was a film called Butterfly Kisses.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. It's about this this cryptid creature called. Well, it's not about this, but the idea is that it's about this creature called. I think he's called Peeping Tom. I think that's his name, and he basically appears at this tunnel at midnight, and if you see him, then every time you blink he gets closer, and then he kills you. Basically, that's the idea behind the urban myth. But this film is really a commentary on found footage, and it does it really well.
Okay.
So it basically follows this guy who supposedly found these tapes of this girl. She'd been making this documentary, right, about Peeping Tom, and he found it in this house that he moved into with his parents. He's like this budding filmmaker himself, so he tries to piece together the movie that she was making before her supposed death, and it kind of goes into the exploitation of like, well, if they're actually dead, then you're exploiting this person. And he's like, no, I'm doing it for good. I'm doing it because I want to complete her work. But then there's also a documentary crew filming him, following him making the thing, and like so it all gets very like found footageception, where there's like teams filming teams, but it's really fun, and it's got a really nice gimmick where one of the characters they realize that, you know, if Peeping Tom, this character is real, then every time you blink he'll come after you, but if you use a film camera, then you can reduce the amount of times it quote unquote blinks as a device, and therefore he would get closer very slowly. So every time he's getting closer, slower and slower, and that's basically the kind of conceit they use to keep it going. But really fun in terms of like a really funny commentary on found footage movies. It's a really good job. It's a creepy movie, but I said to my friend Russ, I was like, I enjoyed the horror aspect, but I enjoyed the commentary way more. Like the commentary on found footage in that is great. Yeah, so that was that. But anyway, the real movie I wanted to talk about is not a found footage movie.
Okay.
It is
well, there was I'm trying to remember. There's a found footage movie that I saw years ago that I really liked, which was pretty sure it's an English one.
Okay.
And it's about goings on in the church in
the Borderlands.
That sounds about right. Is it
sheep get set on fire and then they end up getting crushed in this weirred fucking thing?
Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome movie. That's one of my favorites. That's a genuinely good found footage movie.
That is the one of the best found footage movies I've ever seen. No one's heard of it. And
I know. It's awesome though.
I'm so glad movie. You knew the title to it, because I could not remember.
It's one of my favorites.
The ending is so fucking dark.
It's horrible. It's really horrible.
I mean, slightly spoilers. They basically end up in the guts of a god. Yeah. It's a really good. I really like that one.
Really good found footage movie. That there's a couple out there. I mean, I enjoyed the first Grave Encounters is really funny and really good. The second one is terrible. The first one's pretty good. That kind of comments on ghost hunting, you know, as a thing.
Yeah.
That was quite fun. But yeah, the Borderlands is a genuinely good movie. That's brilliant. But yeah, the movie I wanted to talk about was the Superdeep, which is not a found footage movie. It's a Russian horror film from 2020. But it's new to me because I've resubscribed to Shudder, so I'm working my way through Shudder. And it's kind of based on the real life borehole, the Kola Superdeep borehole in Russia, deepest hole I think to this day, man-made hole on the planet.
Isn't it?
It's a science research thing where they bore a hole, and in this movie, much like the dwarves of Moria, they bore too deep, damn it. And they're doing their research, but it's set in 1984, and it follows Anna, who's this epidemiologist, and she basically tries to resign from her post after one of her like associates volunteers to test a vaccine, and dies. Basically, he, you know, it was not tested on anyone yet. He decides to kind of jump ahead and test it, and he dies. She tries to quit, and then like years later or something, she's celebrating the fact that her vaccine's been so successful because she developed it so fast. And I guess, like, you know, they developed it off the back of this guy basically dying. But she's called to this borehole by a colonel, basically because she's an epidemiologist, because there's been this disease outbreak at the research facility, and they kind of get there, and you know, as soon as they get there, they're greeted by someone who tries to blow them up with a grenade. So they end up discovering that there's this outbreak down there. It's like a fungal kind of outbreak, but it's very much in line with The Thing, in that kind of way, where it's creating these kind of mutant-y creatures. It grows on you, and so they go down to the facility, and then they're trapped in the facility, and they've got to get back out. Some really nice, really good acting for the most part. Some of it seems weirdly dubbed, which I couldn't quite figure out, because I was watching it in Russian, but there's some really weird dubbed moments. I think what they did was they wanted some like American sounding characters, so they redubbed those people. They probably didn't do such a good job of that sounding that way. But anyway, the movie itself, the effects are fantastic. This movie cost $2 million, and it looks amazing for the budget. The effects, I think they did a bit of practical with CGI, you know, that which I always think works best if you do both. And the effects look fantastic. Some of the scares are great. It's obviously got a lot of body horror, which I know you're a big fan of. I'm a big fan of too. To be honest, the biggest issue with the movie for me is the pacing. The pacing is not great, and it does drag in the middle a bit, almost to the point of becoming almost boring. But the effects and the overall story certainly make up for it. You do have to kind of get past the plot hole. If it's a plot hole, I don't know if it's a plot hole. They're very often not wearing like suits when they probably should be wearing suits, given that they know what this virus does.
Okay, one of those.
But it's set in the 80s, so I'm like, maybe you could say they're a little bit more.
You have sealed suits in the bloody 80s.
Well, no, they go down in sealed suits. They go down in sealed suits. They go down. They have suits. That's not the thing. It's just that once they're there, they are frequently in situations where they don't have suits on. And I guess, like, for the sake of plot, maybe, because otherwise it would be less of an interesting premise. I mean,
there are lots of sci-fi movies where
they make this mistake.
Constantly think, why aren't you wearing gloves at least?
Yeah,
it's like, why are you like practically naked? There's something that can take over your body.
Yeah. So there is a lot of that in this movie. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. As an effects movie, considering the budget, it's fantastic. Thought the performances were pretty solid, and it's a fun, just a fun science fiction horror movie in the vein of something like The Thing, and that kind of stuff.
Well, Sputnik was another 80s.
Sputnik's better.
Oh, okay.
I'll say that. I preferred Sputnik to this.
Sputnik's great.
I loved Sputnik. I liked this as well, but I think Sputnik was if I was going to recommend one Russian horror movie of the last couple of years, Sputnik would be the one I'd recommend, because that was superb. That was on quite a small budget as well, wasn't it, actually?
Oh, I think if I was going to recommend a Russian horror movie, it would probably be Daywatch.
Oh, yeah, I meant in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Recent movie. Yeah, Daywatch is fantastic. But yeah, so the Superdeep, I do recommend.
I will have to look out for that.
It's worth a watch. Anyway, what else have you watched?
So I have also seen Bardo.
Bardo.
Yeah, so this is directed by Alejandro Inarritu, and it stars Daniel. I'm going to mash his name up. Gimenez Jaco, and Griselda Siciliani. So sorry.
Did you notice how I purposely didn't try to pronounce any
of the Russian names
in that Russian movie?
So sorry. So this basically is about a journalist turned documentary maker who is sort of reflecting on his life and his sort of past. And he's a Mexican who's been living in America for the sort of last 20 years, and he's come back to Mexico, and he's about to get this prestigious journalism award, and it's to do with his family and I want to quote what the director said at the Venice Film Festival. So he said, a few years ago, I suddenly realized that the road ahead of me was much shorter than the one left behind. Inevitably, I started to explore it backwards and inwards. Both paths are elusive and labyrinthine. Time and space enmesh. The narrative that makes up our life is no more than a false mirage constructed of events experienced subjectively by our limited nervous system. Memory lacks truth. It is only possessing emotional conviction. It is the truth in that emotion that I set out to search for in the emotional drawers of my chimeras I have been carrying. I must warn you beforehand, I have found no absolute truths, only a journey between reality and an imagination. Dreams as cinema are real but not truthful. In both, time is liquid. Bardo is the chronicle of that journey between those two illusions whose borderlines are indecipherable. Which I thought is a pretty much perfect explanation for this.
So that's this movie.
It is full of amazing surreal imagery. I mean, the beginning starts off with sort of a baby being born and deciding it doesn't want to be born, so it goes back in.
Right.
And it all sort of goes with this guy who's sort of like reflecting on whether he was a good father, whether he abandoned his country, or whether he really cares about his family, or not his bit wider family, not his immediate family. And there is just some wonderful images that are just beautiful. Really, I mean, Renati's a great director anyway, but this is, and I think he's been accused of this being self-indulgent, and I think you could probably say most definitely it's self-indulgent.
Yeah, it sounds like he's kind of quite open and honest about that being exactly the case, though.
He makes no bones about the fact that it's a very personal movie, that it's about, even though this character isn't him, it could very much be him. The main actor is amazing as this sort of, he's an intellectual, but he's also, sometimes just bullshitting it. He's just being a bit of a chancer, and it's his how sometimes how people see him and how his family see him is they sometimes, there's a conversation with his son where his son says about, well, you make these things about these movies, these documentaries about refugees and immigrants trying to get into America and all this sort of stuff, and you have all these ideas, but if you really cared about Mexico that much, why did you leave for 20 years? Why did you move to America? Why did you bring us up here? You can't there's just some really, really amazing little conversations that he has, and these beautiful scenes between him and his wife, where you really feel that they have this deep love for each other. There's like scenes where they're chasing each other around their house, sort of naked, basically. But it's really beautiful. Excuse me. Sorry. This movie is not going to be for everyone.
Sure.
It's as I said, the surreal moments, like there's scenes where he's like moving through the city and people just start dropping, and it's a comment on people going missing in Mexico, and how people just sort of look the other way, and that stuff, the sort of comments on Mexico they're interesting, but they're not as interesting as the idea of the journey through life and how we perceive ourselves, and how we even though we're made up of our memories of who we are and what we've experienced, our memories can be faulty. Our memories can, and we latch on to what we remember, and it's a whole study of identity, really, and who we are and what we perceive, or what we show other people that we are. And of course, Bardo it's the Bardo itself. I say itself, if it exists, it's a Buddhist concept, which is, it's the in between. It's the part where one life goes into another. It's like I suppose you could almost say like a purgatory between. This is probably a bad explanation of it, but it's an in between realm for one life ending and just before the next one starts.
Okay.
And there's a through of this movie where you get the impression that maybe it's not just him hallucinating these things, or seeing these amazing things that he keeps seeing, and encounters with his dead father and things like that. Maybe there's a reason why these things are happening. I absolutely adored this movie. I think it's a brilliantly beautiful, amazingly directed, amazingly acted movie. It's one of my favorite Ironatu movies now. Had I seen it earlier, it might have made my top 5.
Wow. Okay, that's great.
But I really enjoyed this movie. As I said, it's not going to be for everyone because it is very surreal. but I think it's a very thoughtful movie, and I think it will, if you go with it, it will make you think about, your own life and your own perception of your own self, I guess.
As all good art should.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I think it's a great movie. It's on Netflix. If you're willing to go with it, give it a chance.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I saw. I guess I can briefly touch on Jack Ryan season 3.
Oh, I still haven't started that yet.
You haven't started Jack Ryan at all, or just season 3?
Oh, it's the third season.
Okay,
no,
cool.
I haven't. I'm sure we reviewed the first 2 seasons.
We may have done. I'm a big fan. Really enjoyed season 1.
The first season for me was fantastic. Second season was good.
Yes. So I would say this one, for me, season 3 is hovering around the second one. It's not approaching the greatness of that first season. But I thought it was really strong. I believe it might be the final one.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that's...
Oh, no, sorry. It's been confirmed that it would end after 4 seasons. So there may be another one then. But I really enjoyed this season as you know, as I did the second. Obviously, returning cast are all fantastic.
It's got a really good core cast with oh, now I'm going to forget his name. Mr. Blunt.
Yes. Yep, Greer. Wendell Pierce.
Yeah, no. Wendell Pierce is great. No, the main dude.
Oh, sorry, John Krasinski.
Krasinski, thank you. No, but Wendell Pierce. I was just going to say Wendell Pierce is fantastic.
He's amazing in it. He actually even above Jack Ryan is probably my favorite character of the show. I really like Greer, especially season 1 when he's just such an asshole to begin with. I absolutely love him. But yeah, I really like this season. The returning cast are obviously fantastic and just kind of step right back into the action. New cast members, some of them I was like, oh god, I don't know. You're kind of, because they mix up the formula a little. They've got a new head. A new person in charge, and she seemingly kind of sells out Jack early on, but it all comes around, and it all came together quite nicely. This one's very much kind of Soviet Union, Cold War-esque. As obviously Jack Ryan was, but obviously now it's set in the today, so it kind of goes back to a lot of that stuff. This one kind of centers around a nuclear weapon and the potential detonation of a nuclear weapon in the US. But I thought this was a solid show. Much like the last 2, I highly recommend it. I don't think it's as strong as the first season, but I would put it near the second. It might be It might be my least favorite of the 3, but still very good. If you know what I mean. Like, it's not a terrible show or anything. So yeah, highly recommend it. Just wanted to touch on it really. But I guess once you've seen season 3, we could go into it a bit deeper. I don't want to obviously ruin the show for you before you've seen it.
I had started watching. I'm near the end of the first season. Slow Horses.
Oh yeah, I was tempted to see that actually.
I'm really enjoying it so far. Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, Gary Oldman and what's her name? I always have a problem with her name for something. Well, I have a problem with most names these days. Kristen Scott Thomas are amazing, and Jack Loudon, sort of the main character, is really good. I'm really enjoying. I'm really enjoying that so far. So yeah, I'll probably review that once I've finished those 2 seasons.
Yeah, cool. So what else? I know what else you've watched. You've watched Men.
So yes,
speaking of Marmite films, as you were talking about Bardo, we have Men.
So you've already reviewed this. It's on your top left.
Top 5 last year.
I
hated it.
Yes, I did.
I thought you might. I had a feeling when I watched it that you would probably have hated this movie. And it is Marmite. I was, much like Mother, which I know you equally really hated.
Oh God! Do you know what?
I thought this film would remind you of Mother.
It did remind me of that at times, and it was. Again, like Mother. Mother is one of those movies. The performances in Mother are great. The acting is fantastic. The movie itself is utter bull. Bill, I hate that fucking movie. I don't feel quite as hatred for this is that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the performances are great. Jessie Buckley is amazing.
She's fantastic.
Rory Kinnear
as like every character ever is
amazing.
Incredible.
I mean, again, Rory Kinnear not afraid of getting his todger out, is he?
No. He's pretty.
He's
confident.
quite happy to run around with his todger flapping around. It's again, as I've been saying, it's my thing. It's beautiful.
The cinematography is stunning.
Many beautiful scenes. The scene where she's walking through the rain, and in the woods, and she gets
whole
the
tunnel scene. The reflection.
The tunnel scene is chef's kiss. Where she sings, because Jessie Buckley is a beautiful singer.
I love how the echoes go on way too long in a really creepy, weird way.
And then it echoes through the soundtrack of the whole movie.
Yes, it continues. It repeats.
That is so beautiful, and I kind of wanted to like this movie, but I really don't.
Dude, I knew this was going to be Marmite, and I had a feeling you wouldn't like this one. But I was really interested to hear what you thought of it. So
things that annoyed me were, they've got this Jack of the Green motif throughout the movie, and they've got the what's she called? Sheila Nagig, the female symbol with her, showing her bits, as it were. They've got those two symbols in this movie, but it felt like the director just saw those symbols and went, "Those are really good symbols. I'm going to use those symbols," and not have any real context as to what those symbols mean or are. He just sort of felt, this is going to make me sound like an asshole, but it reminded me
like an asshole, Matt. It
reminded me of people who wear Iron Maiden t-shirts and have never heard Iron Maiden.
Right, the like H&M Iron Maiden fans.
Yeah. It felt to me, and I know there are themes of fertility.
I was going to say there's pretty heavy themes of that throughout this movie.
Yeah, but it didn't feel like he was using those symbols as the connection for that. He was using.
I don't know. I very much thought he was when I watched it, but it's a fair take.
I didn't feel it. I suppose the thing about the whole is no.
It's all opinion. Man.
It's a massive. All men are dickheads.
Oh yeah, that's precisely.
Men are just fucking irredeemable.
Yeah. Well, in the eyes of this character, yes.
Yes. And I know at the end of the movie, you could say the whole thing's just been in her head.
Yeah.
You could say that.
It very much depends which way you take it as you watch it, because there is the bit at the end that kind of makes it feel like that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost wish they hadn't put that scene in there, because then it would have been a bit much more open to interpretation. I do feel like that final scene, when a friend shows up, is a bit like, that kind of almost. I mean, it doesn't, but it almost could set it to where it's like set in stone now that did actually happen. But I certainly didn't take it as it did. I took most of the movie as her processing her anger and grief over what took place in the movie, and so there's an awful lot of symbolism throughout the film, but I didn't take it to be like this literally is happening and all men are assholes. Like, I think it's her perspective, given what's happened to her. But there's a lot of I think there's probably a lot of interpretations of this movie, and I think depending on how you take it is how you're gonna feel about it, probably.
For me, yes, I could certainly see it that way. I could certainly see it as her internal processing of. And
I could be wrong. That's just my interpretation. That's what I took away from it.
I think it is open to interpretation. Yeah. But for me, the whole misandry stuff I found it very annoying.
That's fair. I mean, again, I was going to say you were watching a movie called Men. So it's kind of like, it does wear it.
I knew what I was getting into. I'm not an idiot. I knew what I was getting into.
No.
The whole protracted birth scene as well just became a bit of a chore.
Oh, I didn't mind that at all. I actually thought
after about the sort of second or third one, it was like, okay, I get it.
Fair enough. I didn't mind that at all, actually. Didn't bother me.
Misogyny breeds.
I actually thought the only
misogyny. Okay, fine.
The only bit I didn't think was very effective personally, which I don't know if it was. I don't know. I think I'm probably giving the director too much credit if I say it was intentional, because I don't know that it was. But that really awkward scene with Rory Kinnear's face kind of awkwardly deep faked onto a child, and it's like, I'm pretty sure that wasn't intentional, because that is kind of unintentionally funny to me. That scene is kind of like, it looks really awkward.
I think it's. I felt like it was supposed to be
funny and just kind of silly.
A little, yeah.
Maybe it was, because I certainly took it that way. But then I was like, I'm not sure, because the effect looks quite dodgy. Which I think is why I was like, maybe it's not intentionally this way.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I don't know.
I took it to be funny.
Yeah, but so did I.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the things like, the wounds that are inflicted are the wounds that are her husband's and all that stuff. Yeah. Which does lead into the whole, well, it's all just in her head.
Yeah,
stuff.
But that, exactly. Certainly that's how I took it, yeah.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I did not. I didn't enjoy it as much as.
It's not making your top 5.
No, definitely not. I don't hate the movie. Let's say that. It certainly isn't on the level of Mother or Blonde. But
it's up there.
It's kind of it's getting there. It's getting there. But it's again, it's the performances are so good. And the direction is great, really.
It's Garland, isn't it?
So stunning, and he really does know how to film nature. He
knows how to use a camera, that man.
Yeah, he certainly knows how to film nature, and he certainly, knows how to make a really beautiful, good-looking movie. But for me, the whole, it kind of felt like he was trying to, fly his feminism flag to show how much of an ally he was to me, and it kind of grated on me a little. Maybe I'm just being mean.
Not necessarily. What is your? I don't think you're being. I don't think you're being mean. I mean, that's just your. That's what you took from the movie and your opinion of what you saw.
It felt to me like he was just trying to sort of show, look at me, how thoughtful I am. Which just like Mother grated on me.
Yeah, which is fair enough. I mean, he has kind of touched on certain themes, but with like Ex Machina being another one that kind of very much has some similar.
He's clearly a feminist, I would say.
This movie very much is like, in terms of its themes, it's very much.
But it did feel like he was kind of saying that all men are irredeemable.
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, based on just from the movie's perspective. I very much took it to be her processing what had happened, especially when you see what happens to characters in the movie. They, like you said, it reflects
it does
what happened, the injuries that happened to her husband. So to me, I took it to be her perspective rather than a commentary on all men being irredeemable assholes. But I do take your point. In this movie, all the men are irredeemable assholes. So, I can't argue the point. It's just an interpretation. It's fun though. I mean, like I said, this was my number 2 movie of the year last year. And I love this shit, man. This is the kind of stuff I love. It's just talking about movies and how people can take movies different ways. And this movie was always going to be Marmite, like 100%. Funny you were saying about Bardo, and I almost segued into this one because I mentioned Jack Ryan, but if I hadn't, I was going to say, speaking of Marmite movies, and men. But yeah, so that's interesting, man. Like I said, it's fun to get your perspective on these things. I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of not glad. I'm kind of disappointed you didn't see it in the cinema now, because I feel like we would have had a really good conversation afterwards over a drink, But yeah,
I mean, I think I guess the difference with this one and something like Mother is I would with Mother I would say to people, do not fucking watch that movie. That movie is just
just don't watch it.
This one I would probably say watch it, but be advised, it's pretty misandrous.
Sure.
It's heavily, almost to the point of breaking. But yeah, it's nowhere near as bad as Mother. Right? Mother was a fucking appalling movie.
I think the main issue I had with Mother is that I just thought it was quite badly written.
Yeah, it's just a director tapping you on the head, showing you how clever he is.
Whereas I think with this movie, I would argue that even if you dislike the message of the movie, I think it's well written. Personally,
yeah,
that's my opinion. Just saying.
It's certainly better written.
Yeah.
I think his symbolism is a little mixed up. I think. Well, I don't know. I guess it's because maybe it's the way I interpret the Green Man and.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a lot of this film, I think, is interpretation. For sure.
Which the Green Man has been used in many folk horrors, and it's been used as a reviver and as a bad guy. So it's not like I haven't seen bad guy interpretations of it before, but in this one just felt more like he wanted to use the imagery than actual what it is. Again, that's just my interpretation.
Yeah, totally. And that is the point of this show, is to have these chats and conversations. No, that's cool. I'm glad you finally saw it anyway, so we finally know where you, because I've been wondering for like almost a year now what your opinion of this one is going to be. I was pretty sure this was going to be your opinion, but I wanted to know anyway, so it's good to know.
I guess you would be better than I thought.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you just get a feeling, and obviously we've been doing this show for so many years, man. Like I kind of know your taste and what you like and don't like for it generally. Every now and again you surprise me with a film you liked or disliked that I thought you'd go the other way, but this one I just had a feeling. Because like for example, June, I thought you would have liked way more than you did. So that one surprised me. This one did not surprise me.
June, don't get me wrong, it's a good movie.
Yeah, but I thought you'd like it more than you did. I know you didn't hate it. I just
June. The problem I have with June is I'm so attached to the 80s one that.
See, I'm attached to the book. I'm not so attached to the 80s one.
Yeah, but that's
the
fair
80s
enough.
One's great. I mean, I do love the 80s movie.
I think that I'm so attached to it and its weirdness and its beauty that for me, the new one just seemed a little dull.
Yeah.
In its design, and I'm not saying it's a bad movie because it's not. It's a good movie. It's just I'm so attached to the Lynch one that it was a hard sell, I guess.
Yeah, and that's fair enough.
And I'm certainly looking forward to the second. I'm going to go to the cinema to see that. Hopefully,
I guess we'll probably go together because we did the first one.
Yeah,
makes sense.
I think that comes out in November. I think.
Yeah, do you know I have a horrible feeling it's going to be delayed, but
I think it might be as well.
I don't know why I feel that way. It kind of felt because I think it felt like they didn't go into production terribly fast, and it kind of felt a bit delayed. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully it does come out in November. I feel like it's going to be.
Feel like they were hedging their bets to see where it went.
Yes, it kind of felt like, is this because it must have cost them a fortune? I wonder if they were like, is this going to make as much money as we think? And then obviously alongside Godzilla vs Kong, it made Legendary the most amount of money they made all year. So I guess they were like, oh yeah, actually we will make it now. Make it fast, please.
What are you waiting around for?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyway, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Because that's everything.
Few bits and pieces.
There's a Renfield trailer.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'd like to pay tribute to Mike Hodges, who died aged 90. Phenomenal director.
Yes.
One of my favourite Michael Caine movies, which we did do, but for some reason is not on YouTube. It's disappeared.
I don't know. I must find out what happened to Get Carter. That review did exist. We loved the movie, and we talked about it for ages. We did a deep
dive into.
I thought it was a really good episode. I need
to it down. But it disappeared from YouTube for some reason.
Also, of course,
Sebastian Gordon.
Yes.
His list of movies are. I mean, even Morons from Outer Space. I have a fondness for. It's not a great movie, but it is, Black Rainbow, Prayer for the Dying, really good movie.
The Omen 2 as well, didn't he? Which I
Which
like.
One?
The Omen 2.
Yes, he did the Omen 2 as well,
which is good. I like it.
Which is good. I think all the Omen movies are good. Even the third
one, like the third one. It's bollocks, but I like it anyway.
Yeah. The third one loses it a little, but it's still enjoyable.
It's one of those things where you're like, what's the logical end of the Omen series? Jesus turns up. Okay, yeah, sure. I guess that is the logical conclusion when you start think about it. And they went there.
And a very, very British director is, I still maintain Get Carter is one of the best gangster movies ever made.
I 100% agree.
So yeah, wonderful director Mike Hodges.
Absolutely.
So we discussed the Renfield trailer.
Yeah, we started discussing it before the show, which we shouldn't do, but
no,
happens sometimes.
No, you did say let's stop talking about this. So
I did. Yeah. I really can't decide about this trailer whether I like it or I hate it, and I feel like I'm not going to know until I see the film how I feel.
I think it's one of those movies that's clearly firing all the right cannons for me. It's over the top Nicolas Cage performance.
Yeah.
Holtz, who's great. You've got.
I'm not sure. I think the thing I dislike the most.
Sorry?
I think the thing I dislike the most actually is them giving Renfield superpowers.
Yeah, that's when it started going.
I like the concept of like Renfield going to like an abuse counseling meeting to talk about the way Dracula treats him.
Yeah.
That's really interesting and has a lot of potential for some comedy as well. But when he's given superpowers himself, it is kind of like, oh, now, do you know what I mean? It kind of takes away
when it starts tipping into superhero territory, I don't know. So,
I mean, it's Nick Cage, so I'm going to watch it. Like,
yes,
there's no doubt.
That's it. It's Nick Cage, and he has been on fire.
He really has. Really has.
What? Let's say 5 years.
I'd say possibly more. When did like Mandy and stuff come out? That was quite a few years ago. We were doing the radio show back then, I think.
Yeah. Let's see.
18?
Was it okay?
It might be. I'm guessing. I haven't. I'll look it up. But since then, that was certainly when I was.
That's when he started. It seemed like he started making the right decisions.
2018, I was spot on. Yeah, 2018.
Yeah, so I think that was when you start getting these, great movies, Color Out of Space and.
Oh, I love Color Out of Space.
What was the even the
Pig.
Oh, Pig. Pig was my movie of the year, wasn't it? I think
it was your movie of the year, and it would have been mine had I watched it. I think I watched it a week after we did our top 5, so it.
And I think Mandy was my film of that
Mandy
year.
Mandy was definitely my film of that year. I remember.
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, it helps that they both made by great filmmakers. So
actually, Pig was my number one of that year as well. Now that I think about it,
it was great. So he's being a little more considerate now. I guess he's made some money back.
Well, that's the thing. He strikes me as someone who just loves movies.
Making good movies again.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Being a little more choosy with what he does.
Yeah. But like we were talking about with Michael Caine, he will always put in 110% into it. And it looks like he's doing it here. He looks like he's having a blast as Dracula. So
like Caine, they both have a love of the craft.
Yes, that's the thing, isn't it? You really get the impression that they both love filmmaking.
Yeah, and they've kind of spent their whole lives studying it and listening and showing what they can do, and even in shit movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw the new Ari Aster one.
Yes, I haven't seen the trailer for that yet.
That looks interesting. It looks a lot more comedic than his other movies. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
But it again looks like a very twisted comedy. It looks like it's exploring all the themes of the fears of modern life. I think is what seems to be going on with that one. The idea that out there everything is horrible.
Right.
It looks like it could be a lot of fun and very and horrific at the same time, which is exactly what you want from an Ari Aster movie, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
There was a little thing I saw about Ridley Scott talking about the sequel to Gladiator.
Oh, fucking hell.
They've now cast...
Are they still going with that dumb idea of him being reincarnated throughout different wars?
No, not by the sounds of it. See, I like the idea. That sounds so batshit crazy.
I mean, it sounds like a fun movie, but not as a sequel to a serious movie about a gladiator that's grounded.
I think it had the potential to take away from Gladiator.
Do you think?
Yeah, which is not good. But I love the sound of it so much. It sounded so fucking batshit crazy that I kind of
sounds like it doesn't sound like a Ridley Scott film, though. It sounds like the kind of film you'd expect to come out, and it would I don't know. I don't know why I think this, but I'm like, it would star Hugh Jackman, and it would come out just like it would be in the same vein as like Van Helsing.
Yeah, okay.
It would be that level of naff shite.
I thought you were. What was that? Was it Tree of Life?
Yeah.
Yeah, that had him in as well.
No, I was thinking like Van Helsing levels of
like
silliness and just stupidity. That's kind of what I see it as. But
it's
weird. So this one he's recast, obviously, because Russell Crowe is dead.
Yeah,
in the movie, he's alive in real life.
But it's to do with the afterlife and stuff, wasn't it? It was.
The gods reincarnate him, don't they, for important wars in history or something?
It's done by Nick Cage. Not Nick Cage. Nick Cave.
Oh right, I don't know.
I think he was writing it as well at some point. I'm sure that was what I remember.
So what's the new one anyway?
So basically the new one sounds like it takes place a few years later, and the main character is going to be Lucius, who was the boy.
The son of...
the son of Connie Nielsen's character, Lucilla.
Oh, well, that sounds way more boring.
Yeah.
Now that we've talked about the batshit one. It does sound like a much more Ridley Scott sensible thing. It's going to be a bit more
linear and more about, I guess, the legacy of Maximus, I suppose.
Which is interesting. There's something to be said for that.
Paul Mescal has been cast as Lucian, I think.
I'm trying to think when Gladiator was set.
Oh, blimey.
Just because I'm curious as to what sort of period the son would be growing up in, if you know what I mean. Are we what period in?
It wouldn't be that further on, would it? It's only.
You wouldn't have thought.
Be 20 years on.
20 years or so, yeah. It sounds interesting. It certainly sounds more like a Ridley Scott movie now.
Yes.
So, hopefully he'll go back to sensible things. Because I know that movie. I really wanted to watch The Last Duel, but I couldn't get past the half armor thing.
Oh god!
It just looks so stupid. I couldn't get past the trailer to watch the movie. Why do you wear a helmet
with half your face showing?
I know, it was so dumb that it actually put me off the entire film, because I'm like, that is such a stupid thing to see that also, I was like, I can't get past it. So hopefully he'll get a bit more sensible and go back to the likes of Gladiator.
Weird mullet was odd as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's actually a good movie. I haven't seen it.
It probably is. It's just that visual thing where I'm like, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
Especially for a period piece. It's not even like... It would be dumb in a sci-fi movie, but at least in a sci-fi movie, you're like, okay, it's some silly sci-fi movie. But here, it's like, no, really? That's like the silliest thing I've seen.
You want to protect your face.
Yeah, maybe.
You want any of it.
Might be important.
On show.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So moving on from one auteur that's fallen away to another one, James Cameron.
He's not fallen away. He's top of his game again right now. Right?
Well, yeah, all right.
In terms of box office,
I mean, but certainly
he might be creatively bankrupt, but he's not money bankrupt.
Certainly the case.
Financially, certainly not bankrupt.
So he's talking about discussions of another Terminator movie.
Oh, good.
Yeah. However, this time he said that he would like to explore the idea of from the AI's point of view.
It's Terminator 2.
Which could be
That's Terminator 2, isn't
I mean,
it? That is
well, I'm
literally
guessing...
Terminator 2. Is the AI's perspective? Is the Terminator?
Well, I'm
guessing
human. You mean Skynet?
Oh, Skynet. Yes. Let's see the perspective of the murderous.
Yeah.
AI. Cool. Well, I mean, yeah. I guess you could look at that in an interesting way, because obviously Skynet only reacted in the way it does in the movies because we tried to pull the plug on it when we realized it was sentient. We tried to kill it, and that it was the reaction to that set it off, according to Kyle Reese in the Terminator, I believe. Although that probably changed in the subsequent 5 movies that were terrible. But
yeah,
not Terminator 2. I love Terminator 2. Just
I discard anything after 2.
Yeah, I do too.
Maybe 3 at a push.
Maybe the TV series at a push.
Yeah, but I kind of, that's kind of a separate.
As an alternate reality, I'll take that over 3, 4, or 5, or any of them. To be honest.
Yeah.
So interesting.
They're still going to keep making them, aren't they?
They'll make them.
Never
forever.
Gonna fucking go away.
I don't know when James Cameron's going to have time though, because he's making Avatar movies until he dies.
Well, my guess is he said before that he doesn't really want to make a Terminator movie without Arnie. Which is apparently why...
Didn't he walk that back recently and said that he thought putting Arnold in that shite Dark Fate movie was a mistake?
Yes, he did. He seems to go back on himself quite a lot.
Yeah.
He said that the problem... He said something along the lines of the problem with that movie is that...
Have you seen that movie?
Dark Fate?
Yeah.
No, I'm not fucking touching that with a
because I have, and I can tell you now that Arnold being in it is the least of that film's problems.
I've seen the opening.
Oh, the bit when they killed John Connor.
Yeah, and for me, that was a hands in the air, done. Up a walk out point. You know, it's like, yeah, no, fuck off.
So
really,
is this going to be a sequel, or like, how is he gonna?
I don't know. I'm not sure whether how much he's going to be involved. It sounds to me more like he's going to give someone his blessing.
Oh, yeah, but he's done this with the last 2 films.
Yes.
Wasn't Genesis the one when he did all those trailers being like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever seen? And then it came out and he was like, oh, that was garbage. Now watch Dark Fate, which is the best one I've ever seen.
It's about Dark Fate that the putting both Arnie and Linda in them were a mistake because, it's now your grandpa's Terminator movies. It's not fresh and new. It's your
You're right. It's not fresh or new. You should have stopped at 2. You should have just finished.
Do
you know, back in the day, I remember being so excited for the concept of like a Future Wars movie. I think at one point it was going to be a trilogy and they were going to set it in the future.
God, I wish they would have done that.
Me too, but not Salvation Future, but like actual, lasers and
proper laser guns and
skulls everywhere.
Just go with it. Don't try and make it realistic. Just go with what you'd set up.
That nightmare world in the future where like the ground is just skulls for no reason. I love that. Like just it's silly, but it's great. It's a great visual.
We've always maintained that's what they should have done. They should have at least done one bloody movie like it. You know, maybe it would have felt a bit like. Maybe it would have felt a bit redundant, like Rise of the Lycans. You know, that sort.
Well, it is kind of redundant because you know what happens, so it's not. But I mean, to be honest, I wish they just stopped it too. But if they were gonna continue,
yes.
That's where you'd go, I think. But oh god, well, I don't care. They've ruined this series anyway. Like, who cares what they do? It's like with Star Wars. Who gives a shit? Do what you want. It's ruined anyway.
I just thought I'd bring it up because I saw the thing.
No, it's interesting. I didn't know didn't know he was talking about that. Last I saw, he was complaining about Arnold being the problem with the Terminator movies.
Yeah,
I was like, okay.
Well, I think that he said that the problem he has is that he's been friends with Arnold for like 40 years now, and I think Arnold doesn't like the idea of Terminator movies without him either. So
well, he's an aging action star with a massive ego. That's understandable.
Yeah. It doesn't really help the cause, does it? When I think what he's saying is that he needs to get away. He needs to get out of the way of it.
They just need to stop making them. The story's done. Like it's
doing them.
Like, what story are you gonna tell? Because every time they're like, "Oh, we've got this new story, like Dark Fate," and it's like it's just a really crap remake of Terminator 2, just like Terminator 3 was a crap remake of Terminator 2. You know, just like Genesis was a crap remake of Terminator 1/2. You know, like that's all you've got. Stop. Just stop. You've made the movies. They're fine. Arguably, the second one gets in the way of the first one. The first one is like, in terms of plot.
Yeah,
I love Terminator 2. Like
I
with
do.
undying love for Terminator 2, I will say
it's most people's favorite Terminator movie.
It probably is mine, but from a plot perspective, it fucks the first movie, and it makes no fucking sense. The first movie is a perfectly nice little grandfather paradox movie, and it's really tight and tidy. As soon as you made that sequel, where it's like, but then they sent another, it's like, no, now you're ruining the story.
Yeah,
they got away with it because Terminator 2 is one of the greatest action movies ever made.
That's the thing with 2 is that they get away with it because it's so
good. Amazing, right? But they were done at 1. They managed a miracle with 2 and somehow made a film like a sequel that's arguably better than the first, right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
Stop. You're done. You were lucky to get 2 good movies. And ever since then, it's been trash.
Yeah.
Just stop. Please, Jim. But I don't mind, though, because they've made so many bad ones. It's like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean...
Like this Highlander thing. I love Highlander, right? But they've made so many bad ones. If the Henry Cavill one comes out and it's rubbish, I'm not going to be that bothered because I've seen a lot of crap Highlander movies in my life. I've seen a lot of crap Terminator movies in my life. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, at this stage, it's just another thing that you can ignore.
Yeah. They must be in diminishing returns as well. Are people still watching these Terminator movies? I know I did, so I guess I'm part of that problem. But
I think people went to see the last one mainly because Linda Hamilton and Arnie were.
That's true.
So I think the thing is they still hold weight, don't they? They still have the power to at least draw people back to it.
Yeah, yeah. Certainly, Linda Hamilton was the interesting one with the last one.
Yeah, I think that was it. It was the first time she was coming back, and she holds a lot of sway and points.
And they both kind of legitimize it as an actual Terminator thing.
Yeah.
If none of them are in it, it does like it. Then it feels like. Is it a Terminator movie without those?
It's easier to ignore if they're not in it.
Yes.
Even though I completely ignored it.
Yeah, it's pretty easy for you to ignore.
Mainly because they completely changed Linda Hamilton's character. So yeah, no. So moving on. Michael Giacchino, who directed the Werewolf by Night, which I know you weren't a fan of, but I quite liked. He is going to be rebooting Them.
Which one? The giant ants?
Yes.
Or the kids? Oh, cool. Okay.
The giant ants.
One of my favorite B movies. Them. Actually, it's one of the is a B movie that had like clearly a massive budget, so I don't know if it classes a B movie, but I love them.
It's definitely a B movie.
I love them. That's a great movie.
Me too.
Giant ants. The nuclear atomic panic, as all things in the 50s were nuclear weapons create monsters in the 50s. Before that, it was mad science, and I guess it still is mad science. I guess.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I think it might be more of a sequel. So it's like the.
Oh, I love that idea.
Escaped queens from
they did
the original.
Yeah, although in the original they do say that the professor in that, who I love, he's a great character by the way. He predicts that they'd like basically overthrow humanity in a few years. So unless it's set in the 50s, I'm not quite sure how you'd get away with, them continuing on. Unless I guess the professor's just wrong.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it being a sequel.
I kind of do as well, and even though it's possibly just a standard remake, even then, at least it's something that hasn't really been messed around with too much.
Well, and I think that you've got a lot of. I think there is certainly, when we talk about remakes, I always think remake something that deserves a remake, something that had a good idea but didn't quite stick the landing. Now I think Them did stick the landing, but I think there's a lot of untapped potential in B movies that had good concepts but were let down by effects and poor scripts but had a nice concept. Take those, and those are the kind of things to remake for sure. So I'm down with that.
And let's not do a Sharktopus.
No.
Movie. Let's do an actual take it serious.
Earth versus the Flying Saucers.
Yeah, let's take it serious and do a nice remake. I'm kind of hopeful for that one.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, at the risk of sounding like a charlatan, all of those the Harryhausen movies. You've got a lot of those Harryhausen B movies that I love. I mean, Earth versus the Flying Saucers was one of them. the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Why not? That'd be fun. I say that, I'll be hating these movies when they come out.
Well, I think
they're nothing like the original. They're terrible. But it's a nice idea.
The Kong movies and the Godzilla movies have done pretty well in recent times.
They have indeed.
So, yeah, I'm happy to
the
movie.
I like. Apart from 98, I like all the Godzilla movies, but I also like.
Oh, do you like Godzilla movies? I didn't know.
A little known fact of me is that I really like Godzilla movies, but I also really like all the Kong movies, including the 70s one. I like the 70s one. It's not great, but I like it.
It's got some
nice bits.
It's
not good, but I like it. I'm not saying it's a good movie.
I have fond memories of it because of the age that I was when I saw it.
Yeah, sure, that's fair.
And I guess I was young enough that it wasn't so bad, you know what I mean? But having watched it in later years, you go, oh god.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of saved by
the cast.
The cast.
Yeah. And the effects look pretty good. Some of the effects look really good because they had that massive Kong hand and
appalling.
Yeah, but
wasn't that one of the ones that they made a really good.
Yeah, like a life-size Kong hand.
Yeah, and then something happened and they didn't use it enough.
They used it a bit, but not a lot. I don't think. Not as much as they intended, so I don't think it worked as well as they'd hoped.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a dud, wasn't it? Which is a shame.
I think they sunk half the budget into it before they realised that, though. So
yeah, not good. Poor bastards.
Oh, but that's interesting. Them.
Yeah,
I highly recommend checking out the original if you haven't, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great 50s B movie. It's
one of the better ones for sure.
Pinnacle of 50s B movies.
It really is. Yeah.
It's a prime example of that genre. It really is. It's right up there with War of the Worlds.
Yeah. I'll tell you a movie they should remake. This Island Earth.
Yes.
Make that again. I always thought those creatures were super creepy. Those ones at the end.
Yeah. This Island Earth's a great one.
They look terrifying until they start walking, and then you're like, there's the rubber suit.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway.
The other brief one I was gonna say was: have you seen the Evil Dead trailer?
Did we talk about that in the pub? We met in real life.
We did talk about it.
Me and Matt met in real life, which is weird.
Yeah, it's been a while since
It's been a long while. We went from doing radio every week to the pandemic and not seeing each other for almost 2 years. Since June we worked out. Not June the month, Dune the movie. June. So Evil Dead Rise, is that what it's called?
Yes.
I like it.
I like the trailer. I must admit,
it's got some nice shots in it, and
interesting to see how it pans out.
It's not Sam Raimi directed, but they've done a good job of making it look like a Sam Raimi directed movie.
I think the problem that you have with Evil Dead is that it's so synonymous with Ash.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how it goes. I guess it's more similar in tone to the remake.
Yeah.
Which I
don't hate it. I was saying this to someone the other day. It's all right. It's not great, but it's not terrible. It's it's okay.
There are some genuinely gross and creepy moments in that movie.
Yeah, and there are in this, even from the trailer.
Yeah. What's the name of the actress in that? Is it Liv something?
Yeah.
I thought her performance in that in the remake was really good, really strong. She's been in a couple of horror movies where I think her performance has been really good.
Yeah.
But
there are some really nice Raimi-esque shots in this.
Yeah, I'm certainly willing to give it a go. It will be nice to see the sort of Deadites in a different scenario, in a different.
I like the idea of them making it an urban setting.
Yeah,
that does almost
not counting the series because the series, but that's more. I mean, it's Ash's.
Ash versus Evil Dead is a fantastic show.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very much its own thing. But no, I thought the trailer was pretty strong. It's got the Deadites. It's got some humor. I love the bit when she's like, "You'd make a great mum because you'd lie. You're really good at lying." That actually made me laugh.
Okay.
And I like. I thought, like I said, even though it's not a Raimi directed movie. It's produced by him and Bruce Campbell, I believe. But it looks like a Raimi movie. Some of the shots, like with the cheese grater, which was one of the cringiest things in the movie, I thought. You got that snap zoom that that Raimi does. But yeah, it's got some real gross out moments. Even in the trailer, I was like, oh, the bit with the cheese grater particularly got me. I was like, oh,
yeah. I'm
and they didn't even show it. It was just enough to suggest what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Color me interested, intrigued.
I think that's it for.
All right. Well, what are we gonna watch for next week? What are we gonna review, Matt? Any thoughts to start the year?
I do not know. I had a number of ideas. I thought maybe we should do a western because we hadn't done a western for a while.
Been a while.
Or maybe a B movie if you want to do a B movie.
I'm definitely up for a B movie. Which would you prefer, western or B movie?
I don't know. Well, I mean, we could. To be honest, they're so far apart that we could do them in.
Sequential. Yeah, pick which one would you like to do first?
Do you know what? I think maybe let's do the B movie.
All right.
B movie.
Okay.
What do you fancy doing?
Oh, that's like kid in a candy store situation for me. I really don't mind. Do you have a preference? Because
I don't. We could do them.
I was gonna say we could do them. I mean, that's a solid choice.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. I mean, remake on the way.
Hey, let's do them then.
Let's do them. Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Well, that's it for us. A happy New Year, everybody, and we will be back next week with our review of Them, the giant ant movie, not the dickhead teenager kid movie. Although that was quite an effective horror movie in itself.
That's not a bad movie actually.
Movie. But anyway, until then, stay safe, take care, and we'll catch you next time.